Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra Ki Jai Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we are going to continue with our discussion on a very interesting topic called spiritual communism, which we have been discussing since last two sessions. Today it's going to be the third part. We have one more part of this particular topic. So this particular topic is a conversation which happened between Prabhupada and one professor by name Katowski of the University of Moscow. Prabhupada visited only once to Russia in 1971 for a speaking engagement, but the government denied to give any opportunity for speaking. So Prabhupada was confined within his room because then the government was the communist government, very strict with regard to propagation of any spiritual and religious activities. So the Prabhupada had to be confined within a room, in his hotel room. So there Prabhupada happened to meet this professor, Professor Katowski, and they had a wonderful conversation which is recorded for our benefit. And all such teachings are all being given so wonderfully by Prabhupada's mercy, who is the founder Acharya of worldwide Hare Krishna movement, Iskcon, so that we know the different perspectives of the Vedic understanding. We can broaden our understanding with regard to what actually it means, what is this life and the world around us, and how to see things from the right perception. Prabhupada has given us enough teachings. He has recorded his teachings in terms of his voice as lectures and conversations. Prabhupada also has written many books, basically to all of us to make us enlightened about our own spiritual identity, and that way perfect our human life of coming out of the cycle of birth and death. So we owe a great sense of gratitude to Prabhupada for his wonderful contribution. So let's try to recap next few minutes what we understood in the previous two sessions so that we can continue in the same line of thought what we're going to discuss today. So Prabhupada was giving the idea of Vedic conception of communism because he was in a communist country, right? And the communist country, basically they have the state as the owner or the country as the owner of everything, and everybody has to work for the country. So Prabhupada said Vedic conception of communism is also similarly having center as God, Krishna, and everybody works for Krishna, God, and everything is offered to Krishna. Whereas in the modern day of communism is that they don't have conception of God, and they want to propagate, in one sense, atheism. And they say, government is giving everything, government is supplying everything, so why do you want to worship God? They say religion is the opium of people, so religion is out of the common public. So Prabhupada wanted to indirectly point out that Vedic way of communism is something very much prevalent from time immemorial, and it was so wonderful that every living entity, for that matter, in a house, the householder used to take care. Even a lizard or a snake in the house used to get their food, and the householder used to go out and call out before having his lunch on the street 3 times. If anybody is hungry, please come in and take food. That was Vedic communism, right? And while this was mentioned by Prabhupada, the professor of Russian University, Mr. Professor Katowski, he said that yes, even Russians are taking a lot of interest in Vedic studies. We have many books translated in Russian, Vedic literatures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, many Puranas, Manusmriti, all of them have been translated in Russian, and our people in Russia are very much interested to study them, and the books are printed and it is sold like hotcakes. He was also trying to support that, yes, people in Russia like to study Vedic understanding. And Prabhupada mentioned that, yes, apart from all the things what you mentioned, Professor, that Bhagavatam plays a very important role in our Vedic understanding, because Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literatures. So Prabhupada was trying to encourage Professor that you have a translation of Bhagavatam also. And Prabhupada said, we have already given Bhagavatam in English from our organization. You can get it translated and let people get the advantage of reading Bhagavatam. In the course of conversation, they had a discussion on Hinduism. And Prabhupada said, Hinduism is a word coined by people who are living, the Mohammedans who are living in the Middle East. They said the people who are living on the other side of the Sindh River, because the Muslims cannot pronounce the word yes. The S, they call it as H. Right? So they call it as Sindh. The people living other side of the Sindh River, they are called as Hindus. Whereas the actual identity of the Vedic way of life in Bharat is that it is called Varnashrama. Varnashrama means society is divided into 4 social divisions and 4 spiritual divisions. 4 Varnas, 4 Ashramas. We have discussed this in detail in the previous sessions. And Prabhupada also pointed out that Varnashrama was created by Lord Krishna, and it is existing from the beginning of creation. Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Yuhagasham. This Bhagavad Gita statement, Krishna mentioning that the Varnashrama was created by Krishna himself for a proper upkeep of society, so that everybody is moving towards the goal of life, that is, to attain perfection in human life, to come out of the cycle of birth and death. And Prabhupada emphasized the point that in the present day society, there is a need for a systematic establishment of 4 orders of life. There was a discussion between the professor and Prabhupada, and professor was trying to point out how in the present day society, there is no proper discrimination, or we cannot draw a clear line who is a Brahmana, who is a Vaishya, who is a Shudra, who is a Kshatriya. So this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, they are not actually castes. They are not by birth that you become Brahmana, or Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra are basically qualifications which a person can acquire in the course of his interaction with different things in his world. And anybody can become a Brahmana, anybody can become a Kshatriya. Brahmana means intellectuals. Kshatriya means administrators. Vaishya means business people and the farming community. And the Shudra means the workers who cannot do any other works except being under the guidance of the either Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and they can take guidance and they work as per the directions given by these other orders. So the professor specifically pointed out that maybe in Vedic way of life, these 4 divisions, Varnashrama, all was very much prevalent. But right now, in the present day modern society, being very sophisticated and complicated, maybe it is difficult to distinguish and identify specifically who are these 4 divisions. These divisions is not possible, he was mentioning. So Prabhupada said, actually, the present situation of Kali Yuga is that it's only filled with Shudras or workers. Even though you may be highly qualified in terms of academic education, having degrees, but you have to work under one master. That is the present situation. But nevertheless, the society requires all these 4 different people of different divisions. Prabhupada gives the example of a body. Just like in the body, there is head, there is arms, there is belly, there is legs. All of them are required for the proper upkeep of the body. Even one doesn't function properly, then it is going to be a problem. Likewise, Prabhupada emphasized that yes, maybe there is no clear demarcation between these four divisions, but nevertheless, the divisions are maybe the classes had to be created now, so that the society can be going in a proper direction. Otherwise, it will be misguided. Just like if a person brain is not working, right, is not properly functioning, is called insane, mad. So Prabhupada pointed out, the present day society, people may think, oh, I'm only working. We have to earn money, right? Or we have to administer, but there's no direction in what way you're going forward. This was the point Prabhupada trying to make with the professor, that there is a need for establishment of four orders of life as presently. That's what the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Iskcon, Hare Krishna movement is trying to do, Prabhupada said. And Prabhupada also pointed out how in the Vedic times also, even though Kshatriyas were administering, there was a Brahminical advisory council. Prabhupada gave the example of Parikshit Maharaj, who had a group of learned Brahmanas who were acting as a council for advising him on all the matters of administration. And even as recently as Chandragupta Maurya, the king, he had a prime minister by name Chanakya Pandit, who was advising him on all matters of politics and administration, right? So it is very much part of the Vedic culture that these divisions were all present in different shapes and forms. And present society, modern society, is such that they are lacking this particular divisions. It's because of so many things that have happened in Kali Yuga, and Kali Yuga people are not following any of the Vedic principles. So nevertheless, Prabhupada said, our point is that we would like to take the best ideas from the original idea. Overnight changing everything may be impossible, and definitely it is not practical. But definitely we would like to take the best ideas from the original as concepts of Vedic life, and so that people can follow and lead and perfect their lives. That's the point. And Prabhupada also pointed out that in the present day situation, why we want to do this from the Vedic life and the Vedic culture, take the best of it and try to see that people follow that in present day life. Why? Because people are missing out a very important aspect in their life, the aim of human life. Everybody is mistaking themselves to be body, right? And they're all considering themselves to be body and working in that bodily conception of life. Nobody knows that actually I am spirit soul. And my existence in this world is because I have somehow desired to enjoy the material world. That's why I've got a material body. So the Vedic conception, the very beginning, basic understanding of the Vedic scriptures that Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit soul, is lacking. And even about the continuation of our journey of life, life after life, this concept also is lacking. While conversation was going on, and Prabhupada was pointing out how this is a basic understanding, spiritual understanding, is that I am eternal as spirit soul. My body may vanish now, but I'll get one more body. When this was pointed out, the professor was showing, rather, he was telling, but actually when the body dies, the owner also dies. Prabhupada was surprised. He, being a professor of Indology, teaching Vedic studies in the university, he is having this understanding. The whole Vedic understanding is what? Our life is eternal. Mrityoma amrutam gamaya. Right? We are supposed to go from life of mortality to immortality. As spirit souls, we are eternal. This is the basic teaching Bhagavad Gita is giving us in the very beginning chapters. Soul doesn't die. Right? Only the body is going to change. So this lack of understanding, this ignorance was very much prevalent in the modern day understanding, modern day setup, especially professors, thinkers, philosophers, politicians. They think after this body is over or body is dead, life is finished. This is called atheistic philosophy. Right? And there is no aspect of continuation of life. Life journey is a continual journey, continuous aspect. This is lacking. So Prabhupada was trying to tell that this is the missing point in the modern day civilization. Now let's continue our today's discussion. Prabhupada is going to give us Vedic statements, how the Vedic statements are actually infallible, means we cannot refute them, or rather they are established truths. We should accept them as it is. When Professor was telling that the body is, this body is everything, and after this body is over, everything is over, Prabhupada will give two examples now. First example is of a cow dung. The professor is continuing his point. The difficulty is that our approach is that we do not believe in anything without argument. We can believe only things based on argument. So this is the modern way of approach with regard to anything, right? We don't say that it is wrong, but we have to also understand our limitation and our shortcoming with regard to our own understanding about many things in this whole creation, right? So the professor's point of view was, we have to argue, we have to analyze, we have to come to a proper conclusion. Then we believe that it is existing or doesn't exist, right? And the Vedic way of approach is that there are many things which is beyond your understanding, right? Things are, many subject matters are inconceivable for you. Just like in your body, we have mind, intelligence, ego. Can you see that? No. You can only understand its existence by its functions. So likewise, there are many things which you have to accept by authority. Prabhupada gives a very nice example. Elsewhere, we have already discussed on this particular example. When you want to know who is your father, who is the right person to approach, right? You cannot go on asking everybody in the world, every man in the world, oh, are you my father? Are you my father? That is maybe you will be successful or unsuccessful, very tedious job. But the best way is to go and approach your mother and ask, who is my father? So the Vedic way of approach is this, that you have to know who is your supreme father, Krishna. Then you have to go to the authority, the Vedas, who is known as the mother. Right? This is the point which Prabhupada is going to bring out in this discussion. So the modern way of approach is that everything has to be analyzed, argued, debated, only then we accept. Right? So Prabhupada says, yes, that is allowed, but you also have to follow the process as given in Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. Because Prabhupada denied, or rather he was emphatically telling what the professor said, that after this body is over, everything is over, is wrong. Prabhupada said that Bhagavad Gita, according to Bhagavad Gita, pariprashnena means argument, asking questions is allowed, but not in a challenging spirit, but rather with a spirit to understand. Argument is not denied. Right? So Prabhupada is acknowledging, yes, argument is allowed, but with a proper spirit, not simply for the sake of establishing my point, and you go on arguing and you just want to overpower other person. That is wrong. But as far as Vedic statements are concerned, they are infallible, and the scholars of the Vedas accept them in that way. So Prabhupada is giving the Vedic way of approach of the subject matter. This is called the descending process. Vedic statements are accepted as it is, right? They are not, again, we don't get into the details of researching them again, trying to analyze and trying to prove, oh, that is wrong or that is right. No, first we accept, then we move forward. And this point will be more obvious when we start moving forward with our discussions. Prabhupada gives example of cow dung. Cow dung is a stool of an animal. The Vedic statement is that as soon as you touch the stool of any animal, even if you touch your own stool, you are impure and have to purify yourself by taking a bath. And this is the Vedic instruction that when you evacuate, when you touch stool of any animal, you have to purify yourself by taking bath. According to Hindu system, after evacuating, one has to take a bath. So the professor acknowledges, yes, it's quite understandable. It is hygienic knowledge because it is impure. Prabhupada, yes, says yes. Even if I apply it in an impure place, the place becomes purified. That is superficially contradictory. So with regard to cow dung especially, Prabhupada says, even if you apply that cow dung in any place, that place itself becomes purified. It's all of us, we know that. This looks to be contradictory because cow dung is a stool of cow. In one place, it is said that the stool of an animal is impure, and as soon as you touch it, you have to be purified. Another place, it says the cow dung is pure. Just see. It looks contradictory. Stool of any animal, including your own stool, if you touch, you have to purify yourself by taking a bath. But in cow dung, you are in the mid of cow dung, and you're handling cow dung day in and day out, and you consider it to be very pure. How it is so? According to our knowledge, it is contradictory, but still it is accepted by those who are followers of the Vedas. This is the point Prabhupada is trying to bring out here, that from our limited understanding, from our limited knowledge of what we know, and we go on trying to argue with that point. Oh, cow dung is impure. How can you touch the stool of an animal? But from Vedic statement, it is said cow dung is pure. So this is why, because we accept the Vedic statement as infallible. They are without any fault. We have to accept them as it is. A stool of any animal is impure, but cow dung is pure. That is the point. And the fact is that if you analyze cow dung, you will find that it contains all antiseptic properties. Even if you scientifically did to analyze cow dung, you will see it has wonderful antiseptic properties, which is proved even up to date. So the professor says, oh, that I didn't know, that I don't know. Yes, one professor in a medical college analyzed it, and he found it full of antiseptic properties. Prabhupada says, yes, it already scientifically, in the modern scientific way, it was analyzed, found to be true. So Vedic statements, even if found contradictory, if analyzed scrutinizingly, will prove correct. This is the authenticity of the Vedic statements, right? Because Vedas are coming from Lord himself. It cannot be wrong anytime. Just because we are limited, our understanding is imperfect, so we try to argue or present things, or rather our misunderstanding, our ignorance is what is limitation, right? Whereas Vedic statements are always facts and truth, existential truth. There may be an exception, but it is accepted, and when scientifically analyzed and examined, it is found to be correct. So basically, the point Prabhupada is trying to make is, whatever it is, Vedic statements are facts. You may later on go into research and try to prove it in your own way, but it's always a fact. So this professor also acknowledges, yes, if you analyze from the scientific point of view, that is right. Prabhupada now gives the example of corn shell. One more example. The corn shell is the bone of an animal, and according to Vedic instruction, if you touch the bone of an animal, you become impure and have to take a bath. Right? It's like stool is impure. Similarly, bone of any animal, if you touch, these modern concepts, rather these Vedic concepts, modern people don't know. Nowadays, they are having pets in their houses, and they're day in and day out constantly dealing with the food for the pets. Mostly it must be some non-vegetarian food. So anything like this is actually very much as per the Vedic understanding. You touch anything, you become pure. In fact, recently I was reading in Bhagavata. It's mentioned how the alcohol, once the alcohol is put in any vessel, that vessel, even if you wash it thoroughly and put all the cleansing agents, And even if you wash it with all the holy rivers, that pot will never become, or that vessel will never become pure again. So this only shows how alcohol intoxication is so degraded according to Vedic understanding. That's why the 4 restrictions which Prabhupada says: no intoxication, alcohol, smoking, any type of intoxicants you have to give up. No meat eating, because meat eating has its bones, flesh. Touching that is impure, right? Then no gambling of any sort, and no illicit sex. So these 4 regulations are very much part of the Hare Krishna movement which Prabhupada has given us. So touching the bone of any animal, you become impure. Whereas in here we see corn shell is the bone of an animal. How can you, understand this contradiction? This corn shell is kept in the deity room because it is accepted as pure by the Vedas, right? We use it for blowing the conch and using for doing puja. So Prabhupada clarifies. My point is that we accept Vedic laws without argument. That is a principle followed by scholars. If you can substantiate your statement by quotations from the Vedas, then they are accepted. So it's like in a law court, you have your arguments or rather your case presented based on the previous laws. You give the, you quote from the previous laws and previous judgments and the actual laws, then your case becomes very strong. Likewise, from the Vedic point of view, whatever you speak, if it is corroborated in the Vedic understanding, then it is a fact. There's nothing to speculate, nothing to manufacture any new thing. That's the point. You're not required to substantiate them in other ways. Just that the Vedic statement itself is is the truth, is a fact. And Prabhupada says there are different kinds of pramanas or evidences. Pramana means the truth, something which can give you evidence, proofs. Proof by Vedic quotation is called Shruti Pramana. And as in the legal code, if you can give statements in the law book, your statement is accepted. So all statements you give, if supported by Shruti Pramanas, are accepted by scholars. This is the way the Vedic way of life was going on. Right? The Vedas are the authority. Based on the authority, you give any statements based on authority, then it is acceptable. Just like in the law code, everything should be as per the law. Anything and everything the advocate cannot speak. He has to go by law. Right? It's not that based on my convenience, based on my understanding, I'm doing this. No. Everything is based on law. So Prabhupada is asking the professor, I think you know the Vedas, they are known as Shruti. Shruti means by hearing. The professor acknowledges, yes, I know. And Prabhupada quotes a very nice statement. Shruti Smruti Puranadi Pancharatra Vidhim Vina Aikantiki Harer Bhaktir Utpatayeva Kalpate. Any system we accept must be supported by evidences of Shruti, Smruti, Purana, Pancharatra. That which is not proved by these pramanas is a disturbance. So Prabhupada is trying to tell us, when you have any conversation, when you have anything to say that it is right or wrong, what is the basis? Just because you don't like or you are biased by something, you say it is right or it is wrong? No. Just like nowadays, we have many such things going on in the modern day society. It is said that, women should have equal rights, or topics like eating cow flesh is good for health, or eating meat is good for health. Many such points, which are all they think it is all modern way of approach. Right? And marriage is not required. Just go on in the life and have partners with us, and live-in partners, and whenever we don't like, we separate. And society thinks that we should have a very free style of working. This is actually not advocated, rather this is not the Vedic way of life. Vedic way of life is designed for you to gradually progress for your liberation from this material world. It's like last session we discussed one point, how in the Manusmriti it is mentioned that once the marriage of a boy and a girl happens, it is for life. There is no question of divorce, right? Whereas this aspect of divorce was brought into the Hindu law by the modern day politicians. At least Manusmriti doesn't say this, because the marriage between husband and wife is for them to progress towards their spiritual path, not for any sense gratification. It's like nowadays we see. Yesterday I was reading some news, how it has become a fashion for celebrities to change their partners, right? Not one marriage, three marriages. This is the present day situation, and they're all our icons, or they're all our models for us. Very unfortunate, right? This was not the one. This was not the way things were in the Vedic way of life. So here very clearly Prabhupada is telling us, when our actions, our talks, our behavior is all supported by Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Pancharatra, basically all Vedic literatures, anything else you do, it is only going to be a disturbance in society. Anything which is just concocted or manufactured or imagined, so like an upstart doing anything and everything, that is only a disturbance in society, right? It should be as per the Vedic way of life, because Vedic way of life is guiding towards the path of immortality, path of light. So Prabhupada says, I save time by accepting the Shruti Pramana. Shruti Pramana means the Vedic evidence, right? I don't simply speculate, I don't simply concoct things. So the professor is trying to ask one more question. Could I just say one thing? What is in the Vedas could also have been proved in a scientific way. He's trying to put his point of view. But yeah, maybe what is there in Vedas, modern science also can prove it. He says, today suppose there is a scientific laboratory. What is said by that lab is true, because modern day man will only accept what is given by the modern day scientists, right? That it is true, you accept without going into the propriety of it. Basically, modern day education is such that everything is should be proved in scientific laboratories and should be told by some big scientist or big thinker. They don't accept the authority of Vedic scriptures. That's the problem. Right? He's continuing. The professor is continuing. Suppose you have a scientific workshop or institution. If this workshop or scientific institution says this is not good, the general body will take it for granted. Yes, the scientific body has said so. So it is understood. It's like whenever, we devotees sometimes fall sick and go to doctor, they say, oh, you people don't take meat, you don't take eggs. That's why you're weak. Because, only in the meat you get proteins and vitamins. But this is not as per the Vedic understanding. Vedic understanding is that dals, milk products have enough proteins and enough milk, enough vitamins. In fact, milk is called the miracle food. It has all the essential nutrients, micronutrients required for the proper upkeep of the body. Right. So, like this, the modern day way of presentation of things is very much distorted. They all come together. With their limited understanding, they want to promote and propagate different things. And this is actually creating a lot of havoc in the modern day society, right? They're promoting the vaccination. What has happened recently with the COVID also is a big scam, as per the different studies which the modern day thinkers are telling. So similarly, Vedic authoritative statements are accepted by the acharyas. Prabhupada is answering, yes, you may want to prove in your scientific laboratories the Vedic statements. It's okay. But the Vedic authoritative statements are accepted by great teachers, acharyas. They're not simply some common people coming together or some materialistic way of people coming together and trying to tell this is correct, this is wrong. No, it's all Vedic authorities are there, the teachers, Vedic teachers are there, acharyas are there. Prabhupada says, in India, we are governed by acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Shankaracharya. They're all great spiritual teachers. They are the authorities in Vedic understanding. They accept the Vedas and their followers accept them. So Prabhupada is again trying to tell and reiterate that yes, our authority is the Vedic understanding. We are not simply going by some speculation or concoction which keeps changing. The modern way of approach is always they keep changing. Just want to give you one simple modern day narrative. In 1992, when there was Babri Masjid demolition, the famous magazine in our country, India Today, had its front page written as India's shame. Right? So it's like a big, whole magazine was only covering that, how we don't even have this religious tolerance and we are gone very, off the track. That was the projection it was made. And today, the same India Today group, they are running a big bus in the metro cities, wherein they have got a big poster telling Ram Aayenge. See the whole narrative, what has happened. So this is the modern day. I gave this example just to tell how the narratives keep changing. Whereas the Vedic understanding is a timeless wisdom, which is proved beyond fact that it is not going to change. Just like Prabhupada says, sun is rising in the east. This is a fact, not today, for ages, from time immemorial. Right? Body is going to die one day. It's a truth, Vedic truth. Not that I prove tomorrow I'll not die. That is all not possible, whatever you do. That's the point. So the Vedic statements are all always facts. They are truths. So Prabhupada is again reiterating and confirming the point. The benefit is that I do not waste my time to research whether cow dung is pure or impure. Prabhupada is trying to tell this professor, you go on doing scientific research because your scientific way of approach is also having limitations and there are so many shortcomings there. Oh, some things is not proven doesn't mean doesn't exist. Just like one of the sessions we had previously, one doctor in Canada, Prabhupada said, was somehow is believing in soul. Just because a doctor believes doesn't mean soul doesn't exist or soul exists. Already it is, Lord Krishna is teaching, this is the beginning knowledge in Bhagavad Gita. Everybody should know that we are spirit soul. Soul is existing. So, we don't waste time by research, whether the Vedic statements are true or untrue. No, we accept them as it is. Because it is stated in the Vedas to be pure, I accept it. This is the authenticity of the Vedas. I save my time by accepting the Shruti Pramana. Shruti Pramana means the Vedic evidence. In that way, there are different statements in the Vedas for sociology and politics or anything for Veda. For Veda means knowledge. Veda means all knowledge, complete knowledge. Any branch of knowledge what you have in this world right now is all part of the Vedas actually originally. Right? But now as people, as civilization started moving forward, it's all becoming distorted. They've all added their own concoctions, their own new ideas and distorting the whole original understandings. So Prabhupada gives the Vedic statement where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto mattas smritir jnanam apohanam cha vedesya sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. So Bhagavad Gita statement where Lord Krishna is telling that I am sitting as Paramatma in everybody's heart and every living entity's knowledge, his remembrance, his forgetfulness is coming from me, Lord Krishna says, as Super Soul. And Krishna says that I am the compiler of the Vedanta. I know the Vedas, and from all the Vedas, Krishna is to be known. Just see, this is the purpose of Vedic understanding or Vedas. And now the professor is going to ask little different questions so that the subject matter is little light. It's about Krishna consciousness movement. He asks, may I put on question to you? Have you many branches of your society in the world? How many you have? Do you have many branches in the world? This professor is asking. Prabhupada says, yes, I have. Where is your main center, and where are the branches of the Krishna consciousness society? Prabhupada says, of course, I have over 65 branches. This is in 1971, June. Prabhupada already had 65 branches across the world. In the continents of America, Europe, Asia, right? Prabhupada had more than 65 branches. Even in Australia, Prabhupada had around totally 65 branches. So this professor is surprised, rather a little more astonished. 65 branches he's confirming. Yes, Prabhupada says, and I have made my main center in Los Angeles, and now we are establishing an important center in Mayapur, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya. Have you been to India? Prabhupada, if you see the way he's interacting with anybody, he wants to make the other person very comfortable with regard to anything he's asking. So Prabhupada says, yes, I have 65 branches. I have main center in Los Angeles. And he's asking, have you been to India? We are establishing one center in Mayapur, the birthplace of Chaitanya. So Professor says, yes, 6 or 7 times. Now there is a very difficult situation in Calcutta because of the influx of refugees from Bangladesh. 1971, there was a Bangladesh war. There's a lot of refugees coming from Bangladesh. So he's pointing out the problem in India with regard to Kolkata, that there's a lot of influx of refugees. So Prabhupada says, yes, but we had our Sankirtan there for 10 days. It was very wonderful. It was a big Pandal program Prabhupada had organized before he came to Russia in Kolkata. And there was a very massive response, very good response. Prabhupada says there was gathering not less than 30,000 people daily. Many people, 30,000 people from, in the city of Calcutta used to come and attend this program. They were very much interested in hearing our lectures, since we lecture from the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada is telling that how Indians are by birth having this spiritual culture. They were very much happy to hear the lectures from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So people are responding from every part of the world, especially the American boys and girls. So Prabhupada is trying to give the wonderful understanding of what's going on around the world. 65 branches, and we're having Pandal programs in India, and especially American youth are responding very much. They are participating in the whole movement. And Prabhupada also says in European countries also, they're interested, especially in England, Germany, and France. We have centers. And Prabhupada says from Russia, I'm planning to go to Paris city, to a place known as Fontenay-aux-Roses. Prabhupada is going to give details of what is happening around the world. And there we have a whole house, nice house taken as a test center. So our process is very simple. Right? How we have so many branches, and how everywhere all over the world, Westerners, Europeans, Americans are taking up seriously this movement, because the process is very simple. What is the process? We ask our students to observe 4 prohibitive principles. What are those 4 prohibitive principles? No illicit sex. Sex within marriage to beget children is fine, but not outside marriage. No eating of meat, fish, or eggs. Right? No non-vegetarian food. And no gambling of any sort. Modern day it has become very common, even online. It has become a sort of an addiction for people. And no intoxication, including cigarettes, tea, and coffee. These 4 regulations. No illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. These 4 regulations, Prabhupada says, it is being followed by everybody who is trying to follow the Krishna consciousness movement across the world. So it's not that we simply admit anybody, everybody without anything. So our process is very simple. These 4 regulations you follow, then you can be part of this movement or organization. That's what we say. And also one has to obey these 4 principles and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And you will find how by this process only these boys and girls are quickly improving. So Prabhupada has given 5 regulations. The 4 regulative principles you have to follow. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And chant this Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bas. This much you follow, then you'll see how spiritually you are progressing. Prabhupada says. The process is very simple. Besides that, we have books, volumes of books, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And throughout all these years, I have written about 12 400-page books. By that time, Prabhupada had written quite a number of books. 12 books. He says, I've written the book called Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in 2 parts. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, during that time, Prabhupada already had published 6 parts. And there's one book by name Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Prabhupada already had written and printed. And there's one more book by name The Nectar of Devotion. And so Prabhupada says, we are trying to spread this Krishna consciousness in this way. Following 4 regulative principles, chanting Hare Krishna, reading these books is what we are telling our followers to do. Prabhupada says, he's coming to the context. Krishna is a historical personality as much as Lenin is a historical personality. Because in the Soviet Union, Russia, communist nation that time, they were all following Lenin, who was a historical personality, and they were all guided by him, follow the communism. So Prabhupada says, it's giving comparison. It's like we follow Krishna, you are following Lenin. Just as you are trying to understand his philosophy, Lenin's philosophy, we are trying to understand Krishna's philosophy. Right. So Prabhupada is further going to tell more about Krishna conscious movement, how one can become a follower of Krishna conscious movement in the next part of the conversation. So this professor asks, are there many participants in your 65 branches? You only have branches or you have many people also in that? That's the question. Right? Prabhupada says, oh yes, more than 1,000 initiated. And outside there are many. Right? Serious followers are 1,000 and there are many others who are trying to follow whatever best possible. The 1,000 have accepted the principles. The 4 regulative principles, chanting Hare Krishna, reading our scriptures. Prabhupada points out to his 2 secretaries. They were all, both of them were Americans. These 2 boys, Prabhupada points out. So this professor has further questions on the same point. But does that mean that the students abstain from normal Western European universities? For instance, can a normal student from one of the various universities who's attending lectures in the normal way also be initiated and admitted to your community? The professor is trying to ask. So does it mean that anybody can become, any university student can take up your principles? Ordinarily, they are studying and they are still going through their education. They can also become initiated. They can be part of your community. Is the question. Prabhupada says, if you want to live in our community and be initiated, we welcome you. It's all depending on your choice. Prabhupada says, you have to first decide. You want to be here and be initiated means you have to follow the principles. Then we welcome you. We're not having any restrictions or any discrimination that, oh, you cannot come, you cannot come. Only important requirement is you follow what we are telling you, then you are most welcome. If not, come and try to understand our philosophy, read our books. There are many books, magazines, questions and answers. So Prabhupada is telling, first of all, you try to understand our philosophy, because before you become part of our community, you have to know what we are doing. Otherwise, it will be a blind following. Try to understand the philosophy, what is being presented. If it is not that all of a sudden a student comes and becomes a disciple. So Prabhupada says, yes, it's not that suddenly somebody will join and just suddenly will come and become initiated. No, it will take some time for him to understand what we are doing, what is our philosophy. Then once he is convinced, he can become our follower. He first of all comes, associates, and tries to understand. We do not canvass. He voluntarily says that he wants to be a disciple. This is what happens with any of our missionaries. Even my personal example, yes, I came associated with devotees, try to understand the various teachings, and it's very convincing. Just like we have been discussing, right? Otherwise, we are going through a type of a life wherein which is actually not having any aim. We discussed this point. Modern day civilization is that it is lacking the purpose of life, aim of life, right? This purpose and aim is very clear when you start reading the literatures given by Prabhupada. This professor is asking a follow-up question. What happens if, for instance, one is not a student but a young worker or the young son of a farmer? Prabhupada says. So he's further asking, would he renounce his whole life and join your community in a given center? How would he maintain himself in his day-to-day life, in material life? So he's having some important questions, the professor. What happens to somebody who is not a student, but he's working in somewhere and he's farming, doing, and suddenly he comes to your place? How will he maintain himself? The Prabhupada says, as I told you, this propaganda is meant for creating brahmanas all over the world. This was mentioned in the earlier sessions we had. Prabhupada says this movement is meant for creating brahmana all over the world. Brahmana means intellectual class, who know the purpose of life. Because the society is lacking brahmana. Brahmana element is lacking. Brahmana again means the person who can give spiritual direction, not a caste. One who seriously comes to us has to become a brahmana. So he should adopt the occupation of a brahmana and give up the occupation of a kshatriya or a shudra. Right? So in our case, we are trying to train them to understand spiritual knowledge, spiritual understanding, so they become the propagators of this knowledge, spiritual understanding. But if one wants to keep his profession and also at the same time understand our movement, that is allowed. We are open for options of, say, one wants to become seriously initiated and become the serious full-time missionary, welcome. Or no, I would like to continue with my profession and I want to understand about your movement. That is also possible. It is called congregation, just like Prabhupada gives example. There are many professors following our movement. There is Howard Wheeler, a professor at Ohio State University. He is my disciple. He is continuing with his professorship, but almost all the money he is getting, he is spending for this Krishna consciousness. Right? So either you can become a full-time missionary or you remain in your household life, outside and work, and you follow the principles of Krishna consciousness movement. Either way, it is fine. Right? And you have to follow the principles as given for your particular situation, what Prabhupada says. Grihasthas who are in householder life outside are expected to contribute 50% of their income for our society. Keep 25% for family and keep 25% for personal emergencies. Because there's a question from the professor about how will somebody who would like to want to be follower of your movement, how will they maintain themselves? Prabhupada says, yes, they can continue their profession outside, but they have to do like this. They have to give at least 50% of their income to society, because society is doing this wonderful service of spreading this Krishna consciousness, this spiritual understanding. They can keep balanced money for their family and personal emergencies. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches that it does not matter whether one is a Grihastha, renounced order, or a Brahmana or a Shudra. Prabhupada gives a very wonderful principle, what is followed in Krishna consciousness as per the authorities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Lord Krishna himself. He says, doesn't matter whether you are a householder or a renounced order or a student or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, anyone who understands the science of Krishna becomes my spiritual master. Right? This is a statement Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes. Who knows the science of Krishna, whatever status, doesn't matter. The actual words in Bengali are Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kene Nai. Prabhupada, do you know little Bengali? This professor says, yes, little. Yes, as a vibration, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hai. Anyone who understands the science of Krishna can become a spiritual master. So in our case, we don't mind or we don't worry about what is your background or what is your status in society. As long as you know the signs of Krishna, you may be a professional, you may be a businessman, you may be an ordinary worker somewhere in a factory, doesn't matter. As long as you understand signs of Krishna, you become the preacher, or you become the promoter of Krishna consciousness movement. So Prabhupada is trying to clarify. That's why Varnashrama is not based on birth. So this professor is asking a follow-up question. But by creating Brahmanas from different social classes of society, you deny the old prescription of the Vedic scriptures. Now the point, very important point is going to be discussed. So this professor is having the preconceived idea that Brahmana means you have to be by birth, right? Vedic, the Vedic Hindu type of understanding is Brahmana family what you are born, then only you are called Brahmana. But you are taking people from different society classes, and you are trying to make Brahmana. This is against the established Vedic or established Hindu system, he says. Prabhupada says, no, I am trying to establish it properly. This professor further argues, according to all scriptures, the Puranas, etc., every member of one of these four classes of Varnas had to be born within it. This is the wrong understanding people have, even in India right now. That you have to be born in that family of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, only then you will be called by that name. That is wrong, actually. Prabhupada, very strongly says, no. So, professor is trying to prove his point from the Vedic, from his understanding of Vedas or Vedic scriptures. The foundation of all scriptures is that Varnashrama means, by birth. Prabhupada is trying to put his understanding that no, I am sorry, what you're telling is wrong, actually. The foundation of all Varnas, again he is repeating, the professor trying to bring his point as birth is a criteria for any division of society. Prabhupada says, you have spoken incorrectly, professor. With great respect, I beg to submit that you are not speaking correctly. See, Prabhupada's way of politeness and his etiquettes are so wonderful in this presentation here. Prabhupada is not shouting, rather, he is not become angry, rather, he's trying to tell, you have spoken incorrectly. With great respect, I beg to submit that you are not speaking correctly. This is the wonderful nature of a pure devotee, right? He's nicely, very, very gentlemanly presenting the things. Prabhupada says, Bhagavad Gita Krishna mentions very clearly, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. These four orders of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras were created by me according to quality and work. There is no mention of birth. So this is the point, basically. These four Varnas, the Varnashrama system which is created is present in society, is not man-made. It is Krishna-made, God-made. And they are not by birth. Krishna never says by birth. He says Guna Karma Vibhagasha, which means based on a person's inclination of work, karma, and his nature, what he has acquired by his previous lives. That's what determines which Varna he belongs to. Varna again means social division. Social division is not caste. It is based on the qualification you acquired to function in a specific way. And any Varna, any ashrama is supposed to move forward in a spiritual journey to perfect your life of going back to spiritual world. That is the understanding. So this discussion will continue further. For today, we'll conclude here. And the last part, next week, we'll try to complete the last portion of this conversation and conclude. So anybody has anything to ask, discuss, comment before we close? No questions? Fine. So let's continue our discussion. Hare Krishna, you have a question? Somebody? Okay. Fine. So thank you, everybody. We'll meet again next week.